Hey everyone, we've been losing a bit of traction lately. So please subscribe, it's free and helps us keep creating great content for you. Your support means a lot. Now, let's dive in. When we met again. It had been years since our breakup when I unexpectedly ran into my first love. Now, she had become the youngest female billionaire. At our class reunion, her fiancé raised his glass and said, "Thanks, man, if you hadn't let her go back then, the vice president's seat at Taylor Group would have been yours." She replied calmly, "That's all in the past." Everyone, eager for drama, chimed in with teasing remarks. Under her gaze, I quietly covered the scar on my wrist and forced a smile. Yeah, there's nothing left between us anymore. I remember it vividly. It was Michael who suggested the breakup. Michael, that's me. When her fiancé went to the restroom, my classmates started gossiping. Taylor sat across from me, a faint smile on her lips. But her eyes, cold as ice. It was the first time we'd met again in 6 years. I wasn't ready for it. The class president had said she wouldn't come, that's why I dared to show up. But fate clearly had other plans. She was dazzling now, one of the most outstanding entrepreneurs who had returned from overseas. Even the necklace around her neck could buy a luxury apartment. Everyone admired her. And me? I was no longer the man I once was. Yes, I was the one who ended things. Taylor didn't deny the rumors. Most people believed I'd cheated or fallen for someone else. "Michael, I heard you're drowning in debt these days. Came to the reunion to borrow money? Rumor has it you're being kept by some rich woman now." Laughter rippled through the room. Taylor remained silent, her gaze fixed on me, unreadable. I smiled awkwardly and said nothing. Then the door opened, her fiancé returned. Sensing the tension, he asked, "Did something happen while I was gone?" Taylor instantly softened, slipping her arm through his. "Nothing much, just some old stories." He sat down casually, his eyes landing on me. "Taylor told me about you. If you hadn't broken up with her, the vice president's chair at Taylor Group would have been yours by now." Smug looks spread across the table. Back then, my family was powerful. I was the golden boy, admired wherever I went. That envy hadn't faded. Now, it turned into the perfect excuse for them to trample on me while I was down. Taylor broke the silence. "It's all in the past. Let's not talk about it anymore." Her tone was cool, but no one dared to argue. Everyone quickly changed the subject. Her fiancé raised his glass to me. "Thanks for letting her go. When we get married, you must come, all right?" I covered the scar on my wrist again, forcing a faint smile. "Congratulations. Why didn't you tell her the truth?" My friend David's angry voice came through the phone later that night. The reunion had ended early. I pulled my coat tighter against the winter wind. Eyes dim, heavy with loneliness. "She has a fiancé now." There was a long pause on the line, then disbelief. "She's engaged?" "Yeah." Classmates left in small groups. Streetlights glimmered on the snow, like shattered glass sparkling beneath the moonlight. How ironic. After all these years of effort. When I finally saw her again, she wasn't waiting anymore. There are words that, if left unsaid too long, lose all meaning when finally spoken. The cold wind stung my eyes until they ached. I laughed bitterly. "Buddy, I'm giving up. After all the years of struggle, clawing my way out of the mud, just so I could meet her again as the best version of myself." It was already too late. The temperature had dropped below zero before the Lunar New Year. Cabs were hard to find. I stood there for a while, hands numb, my phone screen showing, searching for a ride. Behind me, the sound of high heels echoed on the pavement, and her fiancé's gentle voice followed. "Taylor, it's freezing out here. Go wait in the car, I'll be right there." Taylor's voice was clear and pleasant, distinctively hers. "Then hurry up." As the man walked past me, he glanced at me with a knowing look, then strode toward a nearby car and opened the door. The movement just enough to reveal the wedding ring on his left hand. It gleamed blindingly under the streetlight. That ring was a family heirloom of the Taylors. Years ago, it had once been on my finger. After our breakup, I had someone send it back to her. Everyone else had already left. Only Taylor and I remained. My taxi still hadn't arrived. She stood behind me in silence. The two of us said nothing, our shadows overlapping under the dim streetlight. My mind drifted back to the past. That night, the night of our breakup. On her way to meet me, Taylor was in a car accident. Her best friend called me, her voice trembling with anger. "She's in the hospital. It's serious. Please take care of her, Michael. She just got her scholarship abroad. She has such a bright future. Couldn't you wait a little longer? Are you really that desperate for money? She's done so much for you. You could never repay her, not even in another life. Have you forgotten all that?" She was almost screaming, on the verge of calling me a heartless bastard. Then someone snatched the phone away, and the line went dead. You could say I abandoned her. So it's only natural she'd hate me. How much do you need? Taylor's cold voice pulled me back to the present. That has nothing to do with you. I took a deep breath of icy air. My throat, already raw from the alcohol, burned painfully. Suddenly, I doubled over coughing. The cold pierced down my windpipe. Sharp, tearing. I leaned against a streetlight, gasping for air. The liquor I'd drunk earlier churned violently in my stomach. Cold sweat breaking across my forehead. Taylor just stood there, watching me with those cold, unreadable eyes. A taxi slowed to a stop in front of us. The driver leaned out and asked, "Heading to the Skyline Tower?" "Yeah." I straightened up with effort, took a shaky breath, and reached for the door handle. But a hand suddenly grabbed my sleeve. Taylor's voice was sharp and cold. "What are you going there for?" "Skyline, a luxury district. Not the kind of place outsiders could easily enter." I brushed her hand off lightly, but she caught my wrist in a quick, firm grip. Her skin was warm, the heat shot straight through me. I hesitated, unable to pull away this time. When I looked up, her face was calm, beautiful, and impossible to read. I gave a faint, bitter smile. "You're just like the others, aren't you? You think the money I make is dirty. Would $500 a month be enough?" Her tone turned colder, cutting through my words. "What are you talking about?" For the first time, there was a flicker of emotion in her eyes. "You need money, don't you? 5,000. 1 million. Say the number, I'll pay." I suddenly yanked my arm away, hard. Too hard. She stumbled back several steps, crashing into the streetlight behind her. From a distance, I heard her fiancé shout in panic. He flung the car door open and ran toward her. "Take care of yourself. Don't stick your hand where it doesn't belong." I left those words behind and got into the cab. "You actually laid a hand on her?" David handed me a cup of warm water. "Yeah. She tried to keep me," I muttered, curled up on the couch, pain twisting through my stomach. I sipped the hot water slowly. Moments later, I suddenly bolted to the bathroom and threw up everything I had left. David patted my back. "You've got stomach problems and you still drink?" I gasped for breath, wiping the traces of water still clinging to my lips after rinsing my mouth. My throat burned as if it were on fire. Was it worth it, loving her all those years? I looked up at the mirror. My wet black hair stuck to my forehead, my face pale and weary. David's voice echoed faintly from behind. "If you hadn't been so cruel to break up, she wouldn't have become who she is today." I couldn't help but think of Taylor's fiancé. Compared to me, he was young, ambitious, and knew how to make her smile. Faintly, I remembered. I used to be that kind of man, too. But after falling so hard, by the time I managed to stand again, everything had changed. When David finished his shift at Skyline, we walked side by side back to our rented apartment. Suddenly, I got a call. It was Taylor's best friend. "Michael, if you're struggling, I can arrange a job for you." I said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "They're getting married next month. Emma's a good woman, her family's decent too. We just don't want you showing up and disturbing Taylor again." "Don't worry," I replied softly. "I only hope she lives well." There was a pause, then she added, "Anyway, we're all old friends. But none of us are on your side." Click. She hung up. David gave a bitter laugh. "They don't understand anything, do they? It's fine. I was planning to stay here for a while anyway. Might as well find a job near the apartment. During the interview, the recruiter frowned. You've had depression before? That's in the past, I answered. I've recovered, I have a doctor's certificate. Several companies had already rejected me because of that note in my background check. Luckily, this company was small. That night, I got the offer letter. I thought the class reunion would be the last time I'd ever see Taylor. But 3 days later, she was transferred to my company as the new boss. And me? They moved my desk right in front of her office door. I protested. Fine, she said calmly without even looking up. Then submit your resignation to HR. I let out a short, bitter laugh. You're firing me just because I don't want to change desks? Her pen stopped. She finally lifted her gaze, cold, proud, untouchable. I'm giving you a choice. Do you really think I need anything from you? I chuckled dryly, thinking about how David had argued with our landlord last night over a few dollars of rent. Forcing a smile, I said, Miss Taylor, always so noble, what's there for me to be afraid of? Taylor nodded slightly. Thank you. And when you leave, close the door behind you. Oh, and one more thing. Turn your chair around. I don't want your face pointing toward me. I don't want to see you. In the days that followed, we barely spoke at all. A week later, the company held a team building event. As the new employee, I was forced to drink quite a lot. Michael, if you don't drink, we'll dock your pay. Don't worry, if you get drunk, we'll take you home. Come on, you're a man. What's there to be afraid of? The manager smiled as he coaxed me. And the cheers around us never seemed to stop. I downed the last glass of the night. And then collapsed onto the table, completely unconscious. The next morning, I woke up on a large bed. The dazzling sunlight made it hard to open my eyes. I struggled to sit up and pulled off the blanket. I was wearing a soft bathrobe. I froze for several seconds, then immediately got out of bed. In the bright living room, Taylor was sitting at the dining table, reading the morning paper. She, too, was wearing a hotel bathrobe. When she saw me, she lifted her eyes briefly and said, Awake already? Breakfast's on the table. A chill ran down my spine. My face turned pale. Did we? Taylor casually tossed the newspaper onto the coffee table, slightly loosening her collar, revealing faint marks of kisses on her fair skin. Sorry, but you were the one who made the first move last night. Her words struck me like lightning. My memory of the night before was completely blank. Impossible. She slid a contract across the table toward me, with my fingerprint on it. The contents, roughly. I would be her lover. And she would pay me $10,000 a month. This can't be mine. Oh, really? She chuckled coldly. Are you sure about that? Under her calm yet piercing gaze, I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Unbothered by my awkwardness, she pulled out a small recorder. I accidentally recorded your little monologue last night. Michael, want to hear how filthy your heart really is? I froze, as though plunged into an ice pit. Humiliation crashed over me like a tidal wave. Those dark, shameful thoughts, the ones that should have stayed buried, were now evidence against me. Taylor raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. A married man, and yet, Michael, what do you think would happen if I let people hear this recording? My fists clenched tightly. My voice was hoarse. You're taking revenge on me, aren't you? That's right, she replied calmly. You didn't let me live in peace before. So why should I let you? Two choices. Either you fulfill the contract, or I release the recording. The ticking of the clock echoed in my ears. I looked up, lips dry and cracked. Go ahead and release it. I won't be a homewrecker. Taylor looked at me, then laughed. Michael, who do you think you are? Do you really think you still have a choice? In the bathroom, I found my clothes thrown carelessly on the floor, while hers were neatly hung on the rack outside. Separate, distinct. The sight pierced my eyes like a blade. I sighed, silently dressed, and left the hotel. Just as I stepped out, David called, his voice heavy. Michael? They're asking for $50,000. The sky was overcast, not a trace of sunlight. Because of my treatment costs, David hadn't been able to save a dime. And I didn't have much money either. If we don't pay, they'll expose your secret, and we'll never find out where your aunt's remains are. I tried to get an advance from work, borrowed a few thousand from friends. Maybe by next month, I could manage the rest. After hesitating for a long time, I dialed a number. It rang for a long while before someone finally picked up. "Mr. Michael, what can I do for you?" I exhaled a cold breath. "Dr. Elizabeth, I'm sorry to bother you." He seemed busy. It took him a while to find a quiet place. "Are you in some kind of trouble?" I took a deep breath. "Could you lend me $40,000? It was the first time in my life I had ever asked someone for money. As soon as I said it, shame burned through my entire body. Suddenly, noise burst through the line. "Dr. Elizabeth, we need you, it's urgent." "I know, I'm coming." I hadn't expected much in the first place. I had already braced myself for her to hang up on me immediately. But at the very last second, Elizabeth threw me a short line. "Send me your bank account number. I'll transfer the money today." Then she hung up. The sky was still gloomy. The cold, monotonous beeping in my ear somehow carried a trace of warmth. That afternoon, my manager knocked on my desk. "We're having dinner with a client tonight. You're coming along." Just a few hours earlier, I had taken an advance on 1 month's salary, together with the borrowed money, and what little savings I had left. It barely made up $50,000. When I stepped into the private room, I saw Taylor. Her tall, graceful figure was chatting casually with the guests. The light from the crystal chandelier reflected off her delicate face, highlighting her perfect profile. The manager gently pushed me forward, and all eyes turned to me. "Ms. Taylor, is he from your company?" She smiled faintly. "A new employee. A newbie, and you had to bring him yourself?" "Not bad looking though." Everyone chuckled and took their seats. The manager arranged for me to sit right beside Taylor, leaned in, and whispered, "Be sharp tonight. If there's drinking, cover for her." Someone teased, "Ms. Taylor, can this employee of yours handle his liquor?" Before Taylor could answer, the manager quickly replied, "He can, he definitely can." Then he slid a glass of wine toward me. "Go on, make a toast first." Taylor only smiled, tapping her finger lightly on the table. I lifted my glass, held my breath, and downed it. The burning liquor seared down my throat, setting fire to my stomach, making me want to vomit. Applause followed, and they tried to pour me another. But Taylor calmly changed the subject. "Where were we just now? Let's continue." The atmosphere in the room quickly heated up. Many tried to offer Taylor drinks, but she declined each time with the excuse that her stomach was weak. In the end, every glass ended up in me. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I staggered into the restroom. Turning on the tap, I dry heaved again and again. My once neat shirt was soaked through. After sending a message to David, I was completely drained, resting my head on the sink, gasping, eyes shut tight. Footsteps sounded outside. The door creaked open. I thought it was someone coming in to use the restroom. But then Taylor's calm voice echoed, "So, you've had enough?" I tried to stand, stumbling toward the door, but she grabbed my wrist and pulled me back. She pressed me against the sink, looking straight into my eyes. "Let go." My throat burned from acid reflux. Every word I spoke felt like pain. She easily dragged me to face the mirror, forcing me to confront my reflection. Resting her chin on my shoulder, she whispered with a smirk, "Take a good look. Walking out there like this. Aren't you afraid of what they'll do to you?" In the mirror, my eyes were glazed with drunkenness. Taylor's gaze swept over me from head to toe, unrestrained. I closed my eyes. "Is there anyone more vicious than you?" Taylor chuckled softly, brushing her lips against my ear. "Come home with me tonight?" "Get lost." I growled. Without hesitation, she covered my mouth, stealing the breath straight from my lungs. The alcohol made my blood boil, like molten lava crashing through my veins. The light blurred. Tears clouded my vision, burning like acid that dripped straight into my heart. The pain was unbearable. It felt as if I was being dragged back into those dark, endless days, staring helplessly at this dazzling world, one that no longer belonged to me. Taylor, can you just let me go? I was falling, silently, endlessly, into the bottom of a well. Maybe it hurt, but I couldn't feel anything anymore. Michael. She called my name. This time, her eyes no longer carried the hatred that once wished me dead. They were filled with fear. I couldn't tell anymore whether the person before me was the Taylor of today or the girl from long ago. I said, Taylor, I don't ever want to see you again. A fever surged through me. I collapsed, every nerve screaming in pain. The northern wind howled outside the window. In the haze of delirium, I dreamed of the past. I was lying on a hospital bed, asking, Taylor, what if I die? She held my hand and soothed me. Don't talk nonsense. It's just a fever. You'll be fine after the injection. I asked, do you still have enough money to live on? The injections are expensive. It's okay. How many jobs are you working now? She didn't answer. Resting her chin on her hand, she said softly, as long as you're safe, I'll be fine. I forced a bitter smile. When my parents stop fighting, I'll ask them for money to repay you. She looked at me gently. Trust me. Someday, we'll have money. But I could never grow up peacefully, as she had hoped. The night she went out of town for a competition, I came home and accidentally opened my parents' door. My father was holding another woman. The bright future I had once imagined began to collapse that very night. My parents fought endlessly. My father left without a word. Our home sank into debt. One night, a group of middle-aged men came to collect. The ceiling light flickered, and their feverish laughter echoed through the house. The dull pain on my skin and the nausea in my throat blended with my mother's heart-rending screams, all mixed together into a thick, suffocating paste, boiling, swirling violently inside my head. The image in the mirror sped up like a fast-forward reel. My mother was forced to her death in the bathtub by the debt collectors, her body completely bare. David found me when I was on the verge of dying and took me far away, to the southern city. On a gloomy, rainy day, I knelt in the corner of a hospital hallway, dressed in mourning clothes, my face lifeless. The patient has a family history of hereditary depression. Any relatives left? The doctor asked. David looked at me anxiously. He has a girlfriend, she's away for a competition. Then call her, have her come immediately. The doctor's voice mixed with technical medical jargon. He's showing clear suicidal tendencies. It will be difficult to treat. For the next few years, he'll need constant care, 24 hours a day. The family should prepare themselves for a long battle. At that time, my mind was too shattered to go to the police or collect evidence to seek justice. David and I, two stray dogs in mourning, left everything behind and fled the place we once called home. That very same day, the winner's list of the competition was announced, and the name at the top was Taylor. She had earned a scholarship to study abroad. When I called her, the wind whistled through the phone. Michael. Taylor's voice was impossibly gentle. I didn't let you down. In 3 years, let's get married. I stared at the iron gate slowly closing, realizing I no longer had a home to return to. Taylor, I said softly, I don't think I can walk this road with you anymore. Tears welled up in my eyes. I tilted my head back, inhaled deeply, and smiled faintly, light as the wind. She held her breath. Why? I opened my mouth to speak. But in that moment, I hesitated. Her future was blazing bright. How could I be so selfish as to tie Taylor's life to this dark, rain-soaked city of despair? Outside the window, a young man clung to the iron bars, screaming in grief. His girlfriend's face was full of disgust and emptiness. I watched love fade from their eyes, a scene that made my heart sink into hopelessness. The wind lifted my hair, exposing the scars scattered across my body. After a long silence, I forced a calm tone. Taylor, live well. This is where we end. The ticking of machines echoed faintly in my ears. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, falling onto the nearby sofa, like a layer of glowing dust. The hazy dream dissolved. I sat up. A girl was sitting on the sofa, head bowed, silently peeling an apple. Her hands were pale, slender, and graceful. In no time, she finished peeling. A perfect, spotless sphere. It was Taylor. Hearing the sound, she looked up at me, then quietly pressed the call button. The doctor came in quickly, checked my pupils, and after confirming I was stable, turned to her. He's suffering from malnutrition. Add more protein to his diet. Taylor nodded. Thank you, doctor. The door closed. She walked over and handed me the apple. Don't think about anything. Just focus on getting better first. I didn't take it. Instead, I got out of bed and searched through the cabinet. No phone. No clothes to wear outside. She let me rummage through the room in silence. Taylor, what are you trying to do? I stood barefoot on the cold floor. A ray of sunlight streamed through the window, casting my pale, frail reflection onto the glass. Don't you know what I want? She set the apple on the nightstand, took a tissue, and slowly wiped her hands clean. Sitting in the light, her beautiful eyes locked onto mine, a gaze so intense it left me speechless. I trembled, clenching my fists. Taylor, you can't treat me like this. She took a few steps forward, closing the distance. Why not? I already like someone else. Please don't bother me anymore. Really? Her face showed no expression. She lifted my chin, stood on tiptoe, leaning closer, her lips stopping just a centimeter away from mine. I couldn't push her away. Turning my head aside, I closed my eyes, my whole body trembling uncontrollably. Taylor chuckled, her cold voice brushing against my ear. Michael, you're lying. The private hospital was located in the suburbs, surrounded by endless forest. I couldn't go out. I couldn't contact anyone. I tried asking doctors and nurses for help, but they all said the same thing: we can't interfere. Taylor came every day, usually in the late afternoon, her face weary from rushing over. She would talk to me for a while. I always avoided physical contact. She never forced it. Lately, I often dreamed of the past. Back then, I used to say her name every day. To buy me banana milk. The top student Taylor skipped class for the first time and got caught by the teachers. In college, rumors spread that she was dating the campus heartthrob. I took the train across 10 stations, waiting under her dorm building. Late at night, she ran down in a hurry, threw herself into my arms, pouting, I want you. I'm yours. It'll always be just you. Michael, I love you. So much. Back then, neither of us could have imagined that more than 10 years later, we would end up like this. I'm getting married tomorrow. Outside the window, the sun hadn't yet set. The evening light lingered softly. Taylor's voice pulled me back from the haze. Do you have anything you want to say to me? I held the cold cup in my hands, staring at her face, and suddenly understood why I'd been dreaming so much lately. I was saying goodbye to the Michael and Taylor of the past. Every day, the TV played news about her and Emma, the golden couple, a match made in heaven. Once upon a time, that was the future we had dreamed of together. But now, Michael was nothing more than a man buried in debt. What right did he have anymore? I forced a smile. Congratulations, I wish you two a son soon. Taylor paused mid-apple peel. The blade slipped, slicing her finger. Blood welled up instantly from the cut. She froze for a moment, took out a tissue, and let out a faint, bitter laugh. It's fine, he and I are only together for show. Then she looked up. If you want a child of our own, I wouldn't mind. I felt an overwhelming exhaustion. You should try to keep some dignity, Taylor. She stopped peeling, threw the apple into the basket, and glared at me with mockery in her eyes. So that's it? You think this is over? On what grounds? You started all of this, and now with one sentence, I'm tired. You just walk away like nothing happened. What does that make me? A dog? I shut my eyes, letting the harsh sunlight burn against my eyelids. Then I'll return everything to you." Taylor froze. "What did you just say?" I stared at the sunset fading beyond the window. "You don't want me to live in peace, do you? Fine then, I'll die." Her eyes turned razor sharp. I turned my face away, unwilling to meet her fury. "Michael, are you insane? If you wanted to die, why didn't you do it back then?" I didn't remember when she left. That night, Taylor's best friend, Rihanna, who had also been my friend years ago, stormed into my room. "Michael, do you remember what you promised me?" Her voice trembled with rage, leaving me stunned. "Do you have any idea what kind of damage Taylor will suffer for calling off the engagement? You're not a kid anymore, stop being reckless, impulsive. You always dump everything on Taylor to carry for you. Can't you think of her for once?" "What happened?" I asked blankly. Rihanna let out a bitter laugh and screamed. "She called off the wedding for you. And you're asking what happened?" All I could hear was the buzzing in my ears. My mind blank. She broke off the engagement publicly. So what did that make me now? The home wrecker who ruined someone else's marriage. Rihanna yanked me off the bed. "Come with me. Weren't you so confident before? You're tired of her, you've found someone new. Pick any excuse you like. Michael, if you hadn't come back, would any of this have happened?" Her shouts echoed through the howling snowstorm. The northern wind screamed like knives, freezing every sense in my body, until only a dull ringing remained in my ears. Her eyes were full of disgust, as if I didn't even deserve to live. "Rihanna, she's the one who won't let me go." Rihanna's voice was ice cold. "After this is over, I'll get you out of here." Late at night, the office building still glowed with lights. Rihanna dragged me straight inside. But the press conference had already begun. Under the spotlights, Taylor sat poised and elegant. Reporters bombarded her with questions. "Is it true you called off the wedding because of a third party?" Taylor answered calmly. "There were some differences between James and me. We broke up peacefully." Rihanna's face went pale. She gripped my wrist tightly, stopping me from leaving. Another reporter asked, "Rumor has it you've rekindled things with your first love?" Taylor kept her composure. "Just gossip. If there are no further questions, the press conference ends here." But as she stood up, someone shouted, "He's here, that's him." Every camera turned toward me. I was dragged into the light, panic and shame flooding my chest. Reporters swarmed in, closing around me within seconds. "What's your relationship with Taylor? Did you really interfere with her engagement?" The sound of camera shutters was relentless. Taylor's smile froze. She stood up, pushing through the crowd toward me. "It's not me, I didn't." I tried to speak, but my voice drowned in the noise. Then one reporter shouted, "Breaking news." He raised his phone, and from the speaker came my own voice, slurred and drunk. "Taylor, I love you." It was a recording. Panic surged through me. I thought my life couldn't possibly get any worse. But as this storm hit, I completely collapsed. Isn't he the home wrecker? Shameless. The whispers around me hit like open-handed slaps. My face drained of color. That recording pinned me like a nail to a pillar of shame. "I'm sorry," Taylor said shakily. "Rihanna, get him out of here." She pushed through the crowd, panic flashing across her face for the first time. My vision went white. Then a voice rang out, word by word, reading from a report. "Father buried in debt. Mother humiliated to death. Suffers from severe hereditary depression. Spent 5 years institutionalized in a psychiatric hospital in New York." So he's insane, huh? A single line. But it hit like a tidal wave. Why's a lunatic even allowed out? If he's sick, why not just die? Taylor froze mid-step. She lifted her head and looked at me, her eyes filled with horror and disbelief. I stood in the center of the chaos, the blood in my veins turning cold, my body going numb. "Michael?" She called my name, her voice trembling. I already knew what would come next. I simply waited in silence for the final blade to fall, to cut the last thread of my life. He was beaten once because his family couldn't pay their debts. That was the last line of the anonymous report. When she heard it, Taylor's face turned pale as paper. Taylor's perspective? From that day back at the company, Taylor didn't utter a single word. For 3 days, the curtains stayed drawn. No light entering the darkened room. Her phone was full of missed calls. She didn't answer any of them. Time itself seemed frozen around her. Taylor sat there, curled up, lifeless. She could still hear the cold voice of the man who had taken Michael away. "We all hope he survives. Miss Taylor, you truly are ruthless. Without lifting a finger, you managed to destroy everything we worked for." David had been stopped by the guards at the door, but he shouted at her. "Taylor, don't you realize that without his medication, his illness will relapse? Locking him up like that, isn't that the same as killing him?" Depression. Mental hospital. Those words spun in her head like thousands of sharp needles, piercing and twisting her nerves until they went numb. Rihanna knocked on the door, pushing it open just a crack. "Taylor, are you feeling any better?" Taylor's voice was hoarse as she asked. "Why?" The dull pain in her chest made her wish she could just die. Rihanna was silent for a moment. "I'm sorry, back then I thought there was no need to investigate, so the file was fake." "I see." Taylor's voice was barely audible. "Rihanna, when you told me he was living happily abroad, Michael was actually locked up in a psychiatric hospital in New York." Rihanna's voice trembled. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Those words were far too weak. Taylor knew she couldn't blame Rihanna entirely. If only she had asked a few more questions, maybe things wouldn't have ended this way. She no longer had the strength to listen. David burst into the room, ignoring the secretary's attempt to stop him. The blinding light made Taylor squint, but she didn't protest. The secretary apologized repeatedly. "I'm sorry, Miss Taylor, I couldn't stop him. Leave us." The room fell back into its shadowed gloom. David stood there, reluctant to get any closer. "Taylor, there are some things that need to be said, now." The window was slightly open, the cold wind slipped in, bone-chilling. Taylor remained motionless, listening in silence. "When you do wrong, sooner or later you'll face retribution. Last year, on Michael's birthday, I jokingly asked him who he liked most in this world. He said the first person was his mother. The second was Taylor." Her eyes shut tightly. Those words froze her very soul. At that time, his condition had stabilized. Just one small pill a day, and he could live like a normal person. "This year, I brought him back home only to sort through his aunt's belongings." David's eyes turned red. "He said the last time you two parted was too ugly. This time, he only wanted to see you once more, properly. Even if it meant just standing from afar, watching you. The powerful businesswoman you've become. Because he knew, he was no longer worthy of you. Do you know how you got that competition slot?" Taylor's fists clenched tightly. She could already see the truth, the kind that would shatter her completely. There was already an internal candidate assigned. Michael wrote a letter of complaint, demanding fairness. That's how the slot went to you. But in doing so, he offended many powerful people. After his father ran away, he and his mother were crushed under endless pressure. It felt as though an invisible hand was gripping her throat, she couldn't breathe. He was beaten. Because of that, David went on. "At that time, you were away for a competition, gone for about a week, and probably didn't know how chaotic things had become. Michael's family fell apart. His father fled with his mistress. Debt collectors surrounded the house every day, threatening his and his mother's lives. His mother was beaten. He fought desperately to protect her. Barely survived. Then his illness worsened, so badly that I couldn't take my eyes off him even for a second. When you had your car accident, he went mad, saying he wanted to follow you to the underworld. Is that what you wanted for him, Taylor?" Taylor's face went completely pale as she closed her eyes. Memories of the past months tore through her mind like wild beasts. She had ignored the manager who made Michael drink. She had let him be taken to her room without resistance. She had seduced him while he was drunk, forcing him to confess his feelings. She had even forged a fake lover's contract, just to watch him struggle and suffer. To humiliate and toy with him over and over again. She had stubbornly locked him in a private psychiatric facility on the outskirts of the city. David had come to see her many times, she had refused him every time. She had once asked Michael if he was truly ill. She had once asked him why he didn't just die back then. She had once thought his lifeless eyes meant he still loved her. But now, looking back, Taylor couldn't stop asking herself, how could she have been so cruel to him? Why didn't you tell me? David gave a bitter smile. Would it have changed anything? He was sick, surviving was already a miracle. The only thing he could do was make sure the person he loved didn't drown with him. He valued your career above everything else. That competition was the turning point of your life. It was the opportunity he risked his life to win for you. All he ever wanted was for you to live well. Taylor? Tell me, did he deserve to die? The question hit Taylor's heart like a hammer. The one who humiliated him, tortured him, mocked him, was her. The one who used his education as a weapon to degrade him, was her. The one who deserved to die, was her. We tried everything we could to make Michael want to live again. Eventually, we found there was only one thing that worked. Taylor suddenly didn't dare to listen any further. David gave a pained smile. It was your name. The one person he loved most. He never forgot. When I left, I once joked with David. This is one place I'll never come back to. Reality proved. Some vows should never be made lightly. I relapsed again. This city only stays dry for a few days each year. In the past, it was always cold rain. But this year, it broke tradition. Snow was falling thick and white. The doctors and nurses chatted among themselves, saying this year's cold was unusual, that the earth was becoming less and less suitable for human life. The Lunar New Year was approaching. Outside the window, the branches were bare, not a single leaf left. I pressed my face against the glass and breathed out. The fog from my breath left a thin mist on the surface. Downstairs, there was someone, standing there every single day. Wasn't he cold? David replied flatly. Oh, really? I guess he's not cold. Lately, his mood had been bad. So I didn't dare talk much, afraid we'd start arguing again. He handed me a glass of water. Drink this. Take your medicine in an hour. Dr. Elizabeth said she wants you to help her build a snowman tonight. I glanced down again. That person looked vaguely familiar. David pulled the curtains shut. Stop looking, or you'll go blind. I went back to bed, took my medicine, and leaned against the pillow to play a game. Outside the door, I heard David talking with Dr. Elizabeth. Then she came in. I hurriedly hid my phone and sat up straight. I've taken my medicine, I said. A faint scent of perfume drifted through the room. Dr. Elizabeth looked around, her gaze finally resting on my face. Michael, she said, I'm not going to scold you for playing games. I blushed. How did you know I was playing? Because I play too. I recognized the background music. Elizabeth washed her hands, took off her white coat, and, looking at me through the mirror, smiled. Aren't you wearing a coat? You still have to help me build a snowman. She was a surgeon at the same hospital. The first time I met her was on an autumn day. The sky was unusually clear. I was crouched behind the fence, picking foxtail grass. Elizabeth passed by, glanced down at me. I said, could you help me pick this up? She looked up at the hospital sign, then said regretfully, according to the rules, patients aren't allowed to touch potentially dangerous objects. Seeing I didn't move, she asked, what are you going to do with it? Just to play. She checked her watch, then sat beside me with a bright smile. Then I'll watch you play. When time's up, I'll take it away. Her lunch breaks were always short. I sat silently beside her across the fence for a while. When she left, I thanked her. We met a few more times after that. She was busy and usually didn't notice me much. Until one day, she came again, a few strands of hair out of place. Sorry, I've been busy lately. Then she started talking to me. You don't talk much, do you? I can't talk much. Why? Because I'm sick. Maybe I don't have anything to say that could make others happy. I shouldn't dump my emotions on other people. Elizabeth said nothing then, just looked at me quietly. After that, she came more often. Sometimes, when she looked tired, I would learn a few jokes to tell her. Every time, she would watch me intently. Once, she asked, Michael, What's your dream? I wish for everyone to be happy, including myself. I got dressed quickly, waiting as Elizabeth put on her fur coat. She took my arm as we walked downstairs. There were checkpoints at every section. Only she could take me out. It was dark, snow was falling thick and heavy. Elizabeth handed me a small shovel, smiling. I want to see you build a snowman for me. The cold air somehow lifted my mood. I took the shovel and walked around the frozen fountain. When I turned back, Taylor was standing there. Her beautiful face had grown thinner, pale as snow. Her eyes were red as she looked at me. Taylor. I called softly, surprised. Her lips trembled. Michael, I was wrong. If it had been before, I would have teased her. A lady like you? Wrong? Impossible. But now I only lowered my head, embarrassed, tightening my grip on the snow shovel. It's okay. I had gone through so much pain. The edges of who I was had long since been worn smooth. The wind howled, carrying the snow through the night. Taylor slowly stepped closer, her voice breaking. How could it be okay? Michael, please, say something to me. I thought for a moment. Let's wish each other good health for the new year. In that instant, all color drained from her face. Tears streamed down as she trembled. Don't treat me like this. I'm begging you. I touched her face. It was so cold. Just like before, when I used to hold her cheeks gently and say, I just wanted to see you one last time properly. But it turned out like this. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Taylor whispered. If back then, I had chosen to leave your life instead, it's no one's fault. I said slowly, though a faint sadness lingered in my heart. At that class reunion, I had asked the class monitor about you. He said you didn't come. Only later did I realize he'd lied. I don't know why he did that. I just wanted a bit of news about you. To know if you were doing well. Taylor cried so hard she couldn't control herself. I'm sorry, I did it on purpose. Is that so? I smiled faintly, unsure what I was feeling. Michael, I'm sorry, when you were struggling, I wasn't there for you. She held my hand, and finally noticed the scar on my wrist. You don't need to feel guilty. I never wanted to keep you by force. Years ago, we went through hardship together. Fought, dug up old wounds, compared who owed whom more. I patiently brushed the snowflakes from her eyelashes. Taylor, seeing you succeed truly makes me happy. But I once said I'd make money for you to spend. Taylor clung to my arm. Without you, what use do I have for any of that? I patted her head and smiled. Look, my scarf cost more than $10. I've got enough money for myself. The light in her eyes went out. She trembled as she asked, There's no going back, is there? Taylor, you have your life, and I have my own path to walk. This place, I probably won't come back again. The words that wound us, how could they ever be forgotten so easily? We both have memories. I was nailed to the pillar of humiliation. If I went back, every step afterward would be like walking on blades. The pain was far greater than a mere breakup. 1,000 times worse. Taylor took a deep breath, gripped my hands as if to warm them again like she used to. About the recording, I'm sorry. I deliberately led you to say those words. That night, you didn't even touch me. My eyes reddened. Taylor, then apologized to me. Just say it. Say you're sorry. She looked utterly broken, memorizing my face with desperate greed, as if it were her final goodbye. I'm sorry. I patted her shoulder lightly, but couldn't bring myself to say, it's okay. Taylor, I wish you peace and happiness for the rest of your life. The snow grew heavier and heavier. I turned away, forcing myself forward one step at a time. Behind me, the howling wind and snow blurred everything. I couldn't tell if it was the storm I heard, or Taylor's sobs. Elizabeth stood under the pale yellow streetlight, wearing a camel-colored coat, hands in her pockets. Her delicate face and steady gaze were faintly visible. As I approached, she didn't seem to notice. I smiled slightly. Elizabeth, what are you looking at? She smiled too, faintly, a little forced. A few days later, I saw Taylor's image again. On the entertainment news. She had lost a lot of weight. In front of the camera, she confessed everything. Every detail, one by one. To the press. She said it was she who coerced me. That the recording had been deliberately provoked. She even published an agreement with Emma. A 2-year engagement, to end peacefully upon expiration. A mutually beneficial arrangement. They had never planned to marry. That night, according to the contract, was the day to publicly dissolve the engagement. The revelation hit Taylor's company like a fatal blow. Years of reputation and standing collapsed overnight. Not long after, Rihanna called me. "Michael, I'm sorry, I owe you an explanation." She admitted she had misjudged people. Emma had been ambitious. She was the one who leaked my story. Back then, the creditors who had pressured my family for $500. After Taylor sent me to the private hospital and lost contact. Sold the debt to Emma for double the price. Rihanna also said she was worried about Taylor's condition. And asked if I could come back. I gave the same answer as before. I've already said all I needed to say. Beyond that, there's nothing more I can do. 3 months later, my condition stabilized, and I was discharged. Warm sunlight spread over me. Outside, the spring flowers were blooming. The familiar scent of disinfectant lingered. Elizabeth was here again. Brought food? I asked. She'd been busy lately, often sleeping in my room. I pulled down my scarf to reveal a steaming red bean bun. Elizabeth didn't stand on ceremony. She took it, tore the wrapper, and ate happily. I stared at her. She chuckled. "What are you looking at? You're so easy to please." After eating, she asked, "Do you plan to settle down here?" "Why do you ask?" "Well, you've got that apartment you're renting out." I thought for a moment. "You're short on money, aren't you?" She looked so serious that I wasn't sure if she was joking. "I don't have an income right now," I said. "So I probably can't afford high rent." "It's cheap," she lied earnestly. "No neighbors either. Being alone scares me." She sounded like she was trying to coax me, though she wasn't very convincing. On the day I was discharged, a gentle spring breeze brushed past. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something stir inside me again. I smiled, a rare thing for me. When crossing the street, Elizabeth forgot to check the traffic light. So I grabbed her by the back of her collar and yanked her back without mercy. She stumbled in surprise and fell right into my arms. Taking advantage of the moment, she clung to my coat and refused to let go. Let me chase you." Her voice was soft, light, and casual. Her lips curved up as if she were simply saying, "What a beautiful day." Boom boom. In the distance, a child was shaking a toy drum, the sound echoing cheerfully. The pounding in my chest was my heartbeat. My voice trembled, but I still looked at Elizabeth bravely. "I've loved someone for a very, very long time, but I'm not sure." The wind tousled Elizabeth's hair. Her eyes were gentle. "Michael, I've also loved someone for a very, very long time. Give me a chance, won't you?" In that moment, my eyes grew misty. "I'm not a good man. I was sick once. My health still isn't." Elizabeth interrupted me. "You once said you hoped everyone could live happily, and that included yourself." She blinked and smiled faintly. "I hope your wish comes true." A soft breeze swept by, sunlight filtering through the trees and landing on her eyelashes. The spring I once thought I could never reach had quietly bloomed all around me. Early the next year, Emma's company declared bankruptcy. Everyone who had once wronged Michael was eventually sent to prison by her. After enduring several crises, her company finally rose again from the ashes. That day, Taylor sat alone in her office for a long time. Outside, snow fell thick and heavy, the headlights below painted streaks of light across the street. She had been working non-stop for half a month. It all felt like a past life. Suddenly, she remembered. This very day, last year, it had also snowed. Michael had appeared at the class reunion. When he saw her standing beside Emma, his eyes had been filled with shock and confusion. Since then, she had dreamt of that moment thousands of times. In her dreams, she chose differently. She ended the engagement earlier. When the manager tried to drug Michael, she called the police. She didn't force him to drink. She didn't say those cruel words. In those dreams, she did what he had once hoped for. A proper, dignified reunion. Michael returned, held her tightly in the quiet of night, and told her about all his pain. They reunited, kissed, and entered a happy marriage. They took wedding photos. In those photos, he smiled brightly like sunlight. His fingers intertwined tightly with hers. Every time she woke, she found herself alone in bed, listening to the ticking of the clock, and realizing that time was still passing. But Michael would never appear in her life again. He was gone forever. That snowy night in New York, Michael had wished her a lifetime of peace and happiness. His gaze was sincere and calm. He had said he would never return. He was only saddened that they hadn't met one last time, properly. Because she had hurt him so deeply, he chose to leave. No blame. No hatred. No anger. That single sentence, "I wish you a lifetime of peace and happiness," was like a gentle knife, piercing deep into her heart, leaving an eternal wound that would never heal. Because of her chaotic work schedule, she developed severe stomach ulcers, the pain unbearable. That night, she woke in the middle of the night, lying alone in a cold bed. The moonlight outside was hazy and pale. She suddenly remembered how Michael once sat with her, watching the moon, as if it were a story from another life. She missed him terribly. The next day, she booked a flight to New York. After a year, she set foot there once again. The weather hadn't changed: cold wind, heavy snow. People hurried along the streets. She followed the address and found a small apartment. Dusk was falling, but the second-floor apartment lights were still off. She waited by the corner of the building. Half an hour later, she heard Michael's familiar voice. "The beef stew from that place wasn't great. Next time I'll buy beef and cook it myself. David likes it too. Let's invite him over." Taylor instinctively turned her head. And there he was. That familiar figure, wearing a gray down jacket, its surface almost white from the falling snow. His face looked fuller than before. His steps were firm and steady on the snowy ground. Beside him was a small, lovely figure, looking up at him with admiration and tenderness. She lifted her eyes slightly, and her gaze met Taylor's. Both froze. Two women, separated by the swirling wind and snow. Neither spoke. "Elizabeth, are you even listening to me?" It was that same familiar tone. Only now, it wasn't meant for her anymore. Elizabeth pulled her gaze back and murmured in gentle reproach. "I heard you. You said you'd make beef stew with tomatoes. But last time you burned the whole pot. I still haven't bought a new one." Michael gave a faint, apologetic smile. "Sorry." Elizabeth patted his shoulder, like one would pat a clumsy, oversized teddy bear. "Go home first. Our son hasn't been fed yet." "Where are you going?" "To buy a pot." "And the beef?" "Buying that too." "That urgent?" We're definitely eating it tonight." Michael shook his head helplessly and stepped into the hallway. Elizabeth turned back and looked toward Taylor. Taylor didn't know what to say, so she spoke first. "Congratulations." Elizabeth smiled. "Thank you." In truth, she knew Taylor had misunderstood. The son she mentioned was just the cat she and Michael were raising. But Elizabeth didn't plan to explain. Last year, when she'd taken Michael outside to build a snowman, she had already given Taylor her chance. No matter what happened between Taylor and Michael was over. Each of them should live their own life now. His health had stabilized. Elizabeth was straightforward by nature. Michael, gentle and mild-tempered, rarely got angry. He was truly a good man. Taylor could tell he was living well. She saw it in the happiness that shone from Michael's eyes when he smiled. Elizabeth's gaze met hers, sharp as a blade. "Taylor, how long have you known Michael?" 14 years. "Then you must know him better than I do. His birthday's coming up. I want to give him a gift. Maybe just a home-cooked meal. He doesn't eat spicy food. And he doesn't like sweets." Taylor answered instantly, without a second thought. Elizabeth nodded, businesslike. "Thank you. 14 years, a complete circle. You must know him better than I do." That line was Elizabeth's subtle way of showing her discontent. If she truly understood him, then why did she once hate Michael down to her very bones? Why did she let him endure so much pain afterward? "Taylor." A calm male voice cut through the falling snow. She startled and turned around. That face, the one she had missed day and night, suddenly appeared before her without warning. Even the faint smile at the corner of his lips was exactly as she remembered. Michael held an umbrella, walking toward her with a look of surprise. "Why are you here?" Taylor's heart trembled. In his eyes, she saw clarity and peace. He had let go. After a pause, she replied softly, "Business meeting nearby, just passing through." "Passing through this area?" Michael sounded slightly doubtful. Then Elizabeth asked, "What are you doing down here?" Michael seemed to remember something. Handing her the umbrella. "The snow's getting heavier, I didn't want you to catch a cold, so I brought this down for you." When he spoke to Elizabeth, the corners of his lips curved up gently, his gaze full of warmth. That moment pierced Taylor's heart like a blade. "Would you like to come upstairs for a bit?" Elizabeth offered politely. Taylor smiled faintly. "No need, I have a flight to catch tonight." Michael suddenly remembered something. "Wait here for a moment." He turned and ran back inside the building. Elizabeth said nothing and quietly followed him upstairs. Taylor stayed, waiting in the snow. It grew thicker and thicker. The sky hung low and gray, pressing on her chest. Her stomach pain began to return. Just then, her phone rang. It was Rihanna. "Taylor," her voice trembled slightly. "Your test results are back?" "It's stomach cancer." Taylor stood motionless. It wasn't clear whether she had even heard. She lifted her head to watch the snow fall endlessly, and simply murmured, "I see." Then she hung up, as if nothing had happened. She kept waiting, her eyes fixed on the building's doorway. A warm light from inside spilled out, stretching across the snow like a golden trapezoid. After a while, Michael came down alone. The snow was thick, the wind biting. He trudged through the drifts, carrying a small red box in his hands. "These are cookies I baked myself," he said. "Take them and eat on your way." Taylor accepted it, and memories surged back. Michael used to love baking, though back then, his cakes always smelled of raw eggs. He had absolutely no talent for cooking. She once joked, "From now on, you're banned from stepping into our kitchen." And now, he could make perfect cookies. Michael said sincerely, "Thank you for your donation." Taylor knew he was part of a foundation that helped people with mental illness and hardship. She still donated every month, keeping only a little for herself. "It's nothing," she replied, her eyes lingering on his face. "It's cold, you should go back inside." "I probably won't come here again." Michael smiled. "Why not? I still need to invite you when you win your award." Her throat tightened. She couldn't speak. He turned, his footsteps crunching faintly on the snow. Just before entering, he looked back and called her name. "Taylor." The mountain in her heart trembled awake. She stood frozen, waiting for him to say something more. But Michael only smiled. "Happy New Year." Just a simple greeting, even without health and happiness. Taylor's heart sank once more into quiet, frozen stillness. Standing amid the bitter wind, she whispered back, "Happy New Year, my youth."